It's getting cold out these days, guys. What's going on, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and thanks to one of my patrons, Slim Scandy, we've got this Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. This is a 2024 release coming in at 107 proof. I believe I had one sample of Old Forester Birthday Bourbon before this one, so I'm excited to try this one. I heard it's a good release, something around the 2019 release, but we're going to find out. I never had that one. Actually, maybe that is the one that I had. Let's pour this up. Let's try it out. I'm going fancy glass today because I feel like it's appropriate. Price, taste, drinkability. Everybody knows before we get started on all of that. Time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. Smooth. That's right, folks. My second time trying Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. Again, check us out on Patreon because we do a lot of fun things like this. The guys help each other out. We do bottle splits and stuff like that. The only way that I'm ever going to get my hands on something like this, I lost the lottery yet again this year. Still haven't even got my loser email. But let's talk about it. 12 years. And by the way, can we just take the time to appreciate how much effort was put into this sticker? It's got the 12 years right on here. Old Forester, the LTD bottling to 2024, 107 proof. This is just crazy cool sticker that he got for these. So let's talk about this. 12 years, I said that. 107 proof, I said that. This is coming in at 72% corn, 18%, and then 10% malted barley, 18% rye. But let's get into it. Price, taste, drinkability. We're going to put this on the scale this year because maybe I can get my hands on a sample if it's a 2024 Whiskey of the Year contender. I don't know if it is. There's a lot of good stuff up there right now, and I got a lot of other good stuff that we still need to try. So let's go back into this. Let's start with drinkability as we always do. How much ethanol kick for 107 proof? I mean, it drinks nowhere near its proof, I got to be honest with you. I do believe that this is the highest proof that they ever put out. I think it started in 2002, and I think they used to be around that like 98 proof range. And then slowly over the past couple of years, they've raised it a little bit. I think they're starting to see the way of the whiskey world that people want that higher proof stuff, especially when it comes to their limited releases, if they're going to continue to raise the price on this, which we'll get to today as well. But I will say for 107 proof, it's not hard to drink at all. I don't get any real spice on this that I can even equate to an ethanol kick. There's a little bit of a spiciness to it, but nothing that I would confuse with ethanol. But as far as the ethanol kick goes, first glass of whiskey for the night. I know it's a sample, so it's been open, but this is absolutely on the crushable scale and at the higher end of it. 8.85. There's a little bit of a tickle in the back of the throat here. Only 107 proof. 8.85 is where we're going to put this when it comes to drinkability. Let's talk about the taste on this, which is where I might lose you with my personal preference. When it comes to taste on this one's kind of weird for me. It's good, but it's not great. There's nothing that's really off-putting, but yet there's nothing that's really like jumping out on my palate that's telling me I'm supposed to love this. It's very chocolate candy bar-esque. A lot of like caramels and chocolate and nougat, and I feel like I'm literally eating a candy bar when it comes to the sweetness. There's no fruit on this, which I usually like more of a fruity sweetness than like a chocolatey or like a confectionery sugar or like a candy sweetness. But for this one, it was fermented for less. I believe most people ferment for 3 days, and that's when you get that real, what do they call them? Esters, the fruity esters that give it that flavor profile. This wasn't fermented for that long, so it kind of loses those fruity esters, which is, I think, what I fell in love with when it came to bourbon, when it comes to that sweetness. But for this, it's still giving you a lot of sweetness, a little bit of that spice in the middle. Maybe, it's 18% rye, but it doesn't really feel like a rye spice to me, but it does give you a little bit of that tickle on the tongue that gives you a little bit of that spiciness. And then on the end, I was expecting a lot darker of like a tobacco, maybe some leather. It's there, but I feel like this whole glass is kind of hiding. It's kind of like not coming out of the glass. I'm not really getting all of those flavors up front in my face as I would if they were maybe like a higher proof, maybe that 120 proof range. I think this is a very, very good glass of whiskey. Don't make it seem like I'm not telling you this isn't a good glass of whiskey. I just think maybe I had a little bit higher expectations for an Old Forester Birthday Bourbon, which people hype up and people hunt for, and I get it. It's good. I just think for me, maybe it's not meeting expectations, so it's not great. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. I'm not going to be disrespectful. We give it a 7.0 if it's an average tasting whiskey. I don't think it's far above an average tasting whiskey. For me, if I was blinding this, and that's what I try and think about in my head, like, oh, this is supposed to be the greatest glass of whiskey you ever had. All right, put it in a blind and see how good it is compared to some other of your favorite glasses of whiskey. And I feel like if this was in a blind for me, if somebody sent this to me for my 25 days of Christmas, I don't think that I would tell you that I absolutely love it. I think I'd be like, yeah, that's decent. It's kind of got a few flavors I don't like. The flavors that are there are good, but otherwise this just seems like a little bit of above average tasting whiskey for me. So I'm going to go like a 7 point, I was going to say 4, but let's go 7.52 when it comes to the taste on this. Good, not great. That's where I got to put it. And last but not least, as you know, we get into price on this, and this comes in at $199.99. We'll call it $200. And I feel like when this was first released in 2002, right, the whiskey boom didn't happen yet, the bourbon boom didn't happen yet, and it was bourbon hunting season, right? You went to the stores in August, September, October, November. You were looking for BTACs, you were looking for your Stags, you were looking for your Four Roses LTs, LEs, you were looking for birthday bourbons, stuff like that. But now it seems like every month there's 6, 7, 8 limited releases that everybody's trying to get their hands on. So is birthday bourbon still up there on people's lists of things that they're hunting? I would assume it is. If I walked into the store and I saw a birthday bourbon on the shelf for $199.99, would I pick it up? I don't know if I would pick this one up personally. I probably would, just to either give it to my patrons, split it with somebody else, or maybe sell it for another bottle that I like a little bit better. But for me, I would definitely want to try this before I buy it, and I'm glad that I did, because now I know going forward, maybe the 2024 release isn't for me. I'm curious to know from anybody who's had other releases who also knows about my palate, so this is a very specific niche question for people who watch my videos all the time. Is there a release that I maybe would like better than this particular release? But if we give it a 7.0, if it's an average tasting whiskey with average drinkability at an average price of $75 to $90, this is above average on drinkability, a little bit above average when it comes to taste, but it's definitely above average when it comes to price. One more sip and we'll give you a score. Then we'll go over to our bourbon bomb of the week. All things considered, I don't think $200 is crazy. We just did 13th Colonies Double Oak. That's going to be $200. We did Russell's Reserve 15. That's $250 plus. So I don't think, given everything I know about Old Forester and the birthday bourbon and its history and the people that love it, I don't think it's out of the question to be $200. So I'm going to, again, with the drinkability and the taste being right there, I'm going to go a little bit above average on this when it comes to the price. I will say not much though. 7.25 when it comes to price on this. I don't love this particular release, so I'm not going to pay $200 for it. 7.25 is where we're going to put it. Let's finish this up. Actually, we'll save a little bit just for the bourbon bomb of the week. Now, why do we have birthday bourbon, you might be asking yourself, and that's a great question, and I asked myself that as well, so I went online and I looked it up, and let me tell you about it right now. This is actually in celebration of the birthday of George Gavin Brown, who was born in, you guessed it, September, which goes back to that bourbon hunting season that I was talking about before. I'm going to take one more sip of this. I feel like I'm not giving it enough credit. I don't know. So George Gavin Brown was actually the son of JTS Brown. You might have heard of it. I have a bottle on my shelf, but it's not quite as expensive as this one. He was born in September, which is why we hunt these in September. But I will say he actually dropped out of high school 6 months early. I don't think his family could afford it. His dad was actually overseas fighting in a war, and he was actually a pharmaceutical salesman. So he was just pushing drugs since a young child. And the crazy thing is he also sold medicinal whiskey, which is crazy to think about, that you could just be like, hey, doc, write me a script. I need some JTS Brown, but the people got it back then. Now, while he was going around selling this whiskey, he noticed that his patients were telling him that this whiskey was just not consistent, right? Very inconsistent product. Sometimes it was really good, sometimes it was really bad, sometimes it helped with the cough, sometimes it didn't. They basically just wanted more whiskey, but the way you got your whiskey is you had to buy it by the barrel back then. So you would go to your local pub or your local, whoever had a barrel of whiskey, fill up your jug of whiskey, and that was your medicinal whiskey to bring back home. Well, I guess this guy did not like that process, so he decided to reinvent this in his own way. George Gavin Brown and his brother JTS Brown Jr. decided to open their own whiskey company, where they basically went straight to the distilleries, bought the barrels, bottled it themselves, put a label on it in glass bottles, by the way, which was unheard of at the time. Again, people just took their jugs down to the local saloon and filled them up. So he put it in his own glass bottles, put a label on it, and signed it himself. This ensured the quality, and this is actually what led to things such as the Bottled and Bond Act, where you couldn't put additives in whiskey anymore. You couldn't cut it with different things to make it taste different or make your one barrel last a little bit longer than it should. So this is actually on the forefront of how we became a modern whiskey society. So again, without George Gavin Brown, maybe we don't have bottled whiskey the way we do today. Maybe we don't have the bottled and bond act like we do today. But without him being on the forefront of making sure that your whiskey is authentic and your whiskey is not cut or diluted or have any additives in it, without him, we wouldn't have had any of those things. And we wouldn't have this birthday bourbon, which I don't love. But again, maybe you do. Let's find out what this scored. This is coming in at a 7.87. And again, I don't think it's a terrible score for this particular bottle. It's not in our top 10 of 2024, but I will say, maybe you're going to like this a little bit more from me. I do have a particular flavor profile that I lean towards, and this doesn't quite fall into that category for me. I think there's got to be another birthday bourbon out there that I would enjoy a little bit better than this. But maybe, again, you can try this. You can buy this. You like this at $199. So let me know in the comment section below if you've had the 2024 release, what you think about it. Is it a Whiskey of the Year contender? Because now that we're doing this time of the year, we obviously have to talk about that as well. It's not going to make my end of the year video. I can promise you that. But that's Old Forester Birthday Bourbon 2024. Listen, if you like this kind of content, click that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. We're pushing almost 10,000 and I need your help to get there. Check us out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Check out our Patreon page and our Discord. Again, in that Discord and our Patreon specifically, we do these bottle splits. You can get your hands on samples. You can get your hands on bottles that maybe somebody didn't like and they're trying to get rid of. So check out that Patreon page as little as $3 a month. Very easy to join. Patreon.com/Bourbon of the Week. Make sure you check us out on, what did I already say? Instagram, TikTok as well. Why not? Make sure you don't drink and drive. Please drink responsibly. Stay healthy, stay happy, and stay trying birthday bourbons, even though maybe you don't like them. Cheers, y'all.